Death is a lie. Death is an illusion. And it's time we stop giving this illusion our power, because it is exactly through this illusion more than any other that the false matrix controls us. In today's video, we are going to face the shadows. We are going to face one of the most, if not the most, uncomfortable topic for the human collective at this time. And we are going to make friends with it. And we are going to find the play in it. We are going to integrate it so it no longer has the power to control us. But first, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Hannah, and I empower you to empower yourself. And today, I'm going to be doing that by guiding you through this boss fight, shall we say, this really epic, just monstrosity of a boss fight that faces the entire collective on Earth, not even just humans. Survival is such a huge thing for every living being on this planet. But today we are going to lay the beat down to that boss once and for all, reclaim our power, and align with our highest timelines. So that said, if the first few lines of this video, if the title was not shocking enough, I will say, I am not afraid to die. That in and of itself can be a triggering thing for many people to hear. But after many, many years of contemplating death, of facing death, I can tell you with the utmost confidence that I am not afraid to die. And I want the same thing for each and every person. My goal with this video is to get you there too, at least to get you as close as you possibly can get, because I can't bring you there, only you can bring you there. I will also say that I'm gonna give this video a little bit of a trigger warning. We're gonna be talking yet again about very sensitive subjects, such as death and unaliving yourself, which I'll get more into that later. But just a warning, if you are particularly sensitive to these subjects right now, maybe it's not the best time to watch. But then again, maybe it is a good time to watch, because maybe, just maybe, this video will allow you to make peace with these painful, scary, overwhelming topics. I have nothing but positive, loving intentions for this video, and I hope that you can feel them. This is the third video in a row now that I've posted to YouTube where I've had some resistance to posting it. And now I've learned, anytime there's some resistance to posting something, that means I gotta take the leap. I gotta do it. I gotta go into the resistance, go into the shadows, because like I always say, everything you've ever wanted, it's on the other side of your comfort zone. If you're getting uncomfortable and it feels like exciting, enticing, you better know that you're about to level up big time going into that shadow. So yet again, I'm going to dive into the shadows with you today with another controversial video. And I will say there was resistance, again, on multiple facets here for this video. But one was that we're just dealing with so much collectively right now. I kind of wanted to do more energy update video stuff. There's just so much to talk about with the current energies, and my time is so limited, it's hard to kind of make the time to do all the videos I want to do, to say all the things I want to say. I have to be very intentional with what I talk about. However, this video was just very much on my heart to do, and I realized it's because it is, in fact, aligned with the current energies. Though I would say it's a timeless video, and any time that you're watching this, it's gonna apply and you can take something from this. It is also aligned with the current energies. So as of filming, it's September 2025. We're literally about to enter the end of this purge period. It's been an epic purge during this eclipse season, and we are slowly but surely approaching the 21st. I think I might even actually schedule this video to go out exactly on the 21st, because that is the pinnacle of this purging. That is that new moon eclipse. It's going to be super, super powerful. And so my guides, my higher self, were like, you have to talk about this, Hannah, and you have to talk about it now, because this whole purge is about facing and integrating shadows. And this is the biggest shadow there is for humanity: death. This is how the false matrix controls us. This is how we remain in victimhood. This is how we remain out of our power. So it's time to face it, to love it, to laugh at it, to laugh with it, and to allow ourselves to be birthed through it rather than restrained. We have reached that turning point in humanity, in the ascension process, where the timelines, they are splitting. And I'm sure you can feel it. I'm sure you can see it. If you were drawn to this video, likely you are going on a higher timeline trajectory, and you're finding it more and more impossible to be around those who are on the lower timeline trajectory. More and more impossible to be around this victim mindsets and fear and anger, and to just hold all these negative emotions, negative outlooks. You're finding it just intolerable because you're ascending, my friend. You are ascending. You're going on this higher timeline. And those lower vibrational energies, they simply don't exist on that higher timeline. They don't exist. And you're being asked now to choose. Do you want to be on that higher timeline, or do you want to be on the lower timeline? After September 21st, which again, as of posting this video, that is today, as of posting, it's going to be easier than ever to remain on the timeline that you're on. So if you're choosing that higher timeline, it's going to be easier to stay there. You're going to have less dips into the lower timelines. However, if you've chosen the lower timeline, it's also going to be easier to stay there. It's going to be harder to get to the higher timeline. So I'm putting this out now with the hopes that it allows you to make the most empowered choice for your soul. It allows you to make a choice out of love and expansion rather than fear and contraction. And it gets you hopefully on the right track for you. And know that there is no universal right or wrong track. We need to take the judgment out of this. If someone is choosing the lower timeline, there is nothing wrong with that. There's only what is wrong for you and what is right for you. So if you are triggered by the lower timelines and that just has a charge to it, that is a clear indication from your soul that that timeline is not for you. And likely, if you're on that timeline, you're not watching this video. I don't think people on the lower timelines can even perceive this sort of content that I'm putting out right now. So rest assured, again, my intention is not to fearmonger. So with all of that said, let's dive in. Let's talk about death. Juicy, juicy death. So I will preface with the kind of just my background on this. And so for myself, I believe you can't truly live until you've died, until you've faced death, until you've made peace with it. And so I feel like my entire life, in a way, was kind of a masterclass preparing me to really actually live. And what that looked like was that for the first part of my life, I had a lot of death in my life. I was faced with death. And it was always on my mind. My earliest memories in life were of death. One of the first memories I had was being at a funeral, for example. And I guess a note on this, I went to so many funerals from the age 0 until about 13 or so, that it was so normal to me. I just expected people to be dropping like flies. Honestly, I just expected people to be dropping like flies. And I remember there was this moment when I was 16, I was in high school, and one of my classmates' fathers passed away. And everyone, it was the talk of the school, everyone was talking about it. And there was this boy in my class, and he was like so freaked out to go to the funeral and stuff because he was saying like, I've never been to a funeral before. And I remember being so completely shocked. It completely shattered my worldview. it triggered me a little bit because I was like, what? How can you have made it to age 16 and never have gone to a funeral? Like, all I know is going to funerals. This is like, I go to so many every year. I lost track of how many funerals I had been to at that point. So it was so shocking to me. And I always think back to that moment as such a wake-up call, because that was my reality. It was so normalized for me. That was the first moment when I realized maybe this isn't the most normal thing in the world. Maybe there's something going on here. And for a while, I resented that, honestly. I was like, why am I surrounded by death? Like, why does everyone around me die? This is depressing. This sucks. I just want to have a normal childhood. I want to just have fun and be carefree and not be thinking about death. But I can tell you now, being an adult and looking back, I can see it's because my soul was preparing me. It was this masterclass in making peace with death first and foremost, so I could then truly enjoy life. And how it goes for most people is it's the other way around. Most people aren't really thinking about death a lot when they're kids. Most people subconsciously, if not consciously, as children, as young adults, they feel like they're invincible and they have all the time in the world and they couldn't possibly die. And so they do like crazy things and they're just like exploring and stuff. But then eventually life sobers them up. A classmate's father dies and they go to a funeral. Maybe a close loved one dies, they go to a funeral, and it starts to sober them up seeing people around them die. And then as they get older and more people die, they are forced to face that shadow more and more until hopefully they're able to make peace with death and with their own death. But if not, this can really weigh heavy on the body, on the heart, on the soul, and on the mind. And then this takes a toll on the physical body. It causes disease and aging. We'll talk about that later as well. But in any case, I gotta say, I have so much gratitude for my upbringing, all the death I was surrounded by. And as such, I would say as a young child, just because I saw so much death, because my health wasn't so good, because I had had a couple near-death experiences, it was always in the back of my mind, like, oh, I could die. Like, I could die today. I could die tomorrow. I would have nightmares, like over and over recurring nightmares of dying and like what that felt like. And just, it was, words cannot express just how ever present this theme was in my life until the age of around 13. So then I hit 13, and at 13, I basically feel like a grizzled war veteran. I feel like an old person. I really struggle with my health. I had seen so many people die at that point, and I had suffered a lot of abuse in my life and my family, and I was tired. I was very, very depressed at age 13. I remember clear as day, literally the day of my 13th birthday, I just was like sobbing and I was so depressed and I didn't want to see people. And it literally lasted a solid year, like a solid year of just like the most intense depression that I now recognize as my dark night of the soul. It was quite possibly the first dark night of the soul that I had in my life. I've had quite a few, as have we all, most likely, if you're here, but that, I believe, was my first one. So around the end of that year, there was a moment when my family was gone and I was home alone, and this was a rare opportunity for me. And I was so depressed. I remember that I walked into the kitchen and I grabbed like the biggest kitchen knife and I like just held it and I looked at it and I contemplated unaliving myself. And I just want to say, like, I can't take that word seriously. I think it's so silly and so ridiculous and just funny. And that's exactly why I'm going to use it in this video, because I want to bring a sort of irreverence and lightness to this whole topic, because I think that's part of the problem here too, is that we see death, oh, death's so serious, so scary, so wrong. And I really don't feel it's like that at all. And if you view it that way, if you view it in this really serious thing, you're afraid of it in some way, and therefore you're giving it your power, and you're not living your life to the fullest. So that said, just a little warning, I'm going to be a little irreverent when I talk about death and unaliving myself. So I was looking at this knife and holding it to my neck, holding it to my wrist, and just contemplating, like, it would be so easy. It would be so easy just to end all of this suffering right now. I had that thought in my mind, in my heart so strongly, and I sat with it. I contemplated it. I really, really just let it sink in. I could end all of this right now. And then, friends, in that moment, another thought popped into my head. Wouldn't it stand to reason if I can end all of this, if I can end my life as a 13-year-old that doesn't really have any rights, that is controlled by my family, feels very trapped, doesn't have personal sovereignty. If I could end my life right now, wouldn't it also stand to reason that I could live my life however I wanted to, and I could actually live a really empowered life? So I sat with that question for a moment, and then I was like, yeah, I think so. Let's do a little experiment. Let's try it out. And I put that knife back where it belonged in its like little holster, and I stepped away, and my depression, at least for a little while, was gone. And I felt so empowered all of a sudden. I knew that I had the power to create my reality, and no one told me that. I didn't read it in a book, nothing like that. It just came to me in that moment. And all of that fear that I had of death immediately just disappeared. I no longer really feared death after that moment. I no longer ever had any nightmares about dying. I felt totally free for the first time in my life. Even though I was a 13-year-old and I was still stuck living with my family in unideal circumstances, I reclaimed a fragment of my sovereignty in that moment, and I've never let go of it since. So that is my brief background on death in my personal life. And I do want to revisit this topic of unaliving yourself and what happens when you do that, in case maybe you do have a loved one that has done this. And I will say, I have had people in my life that were close to me, both that have attempted unaliving themselves and failed, and that have attempted and succeeded. And I myself have done it many times in my previous incarnations. And so I have a lot of experience with it. And I'm very clear now on kind of like what happens when you do it. And let's just say that I also realized I'm not allowed to do it in this life, because I did it in so many lives. I'm no longer allowed to do it, and it's kind of funny. Again, it's kind of irreverent. It's like the universe is like blocking me if I ever wanted to go down that route, which I haven't wanted to since that moment. There's moments where I'm like, oh, it'd be so easy, but I haven't seriously contemplated it since that moment. But if I did, I wouldn't be allowed to proceed with it anyways, let's just say. So that brings us to the topic of the video that is relevant to the current energies. And so I'm going to divide it into two parts. It's going to be in the same video, but two different topics here around the topic of death as an illusion, death as a lie, having the power to choose. So first part, theme number one, is what I would title exit points, timeline shifts, and the power of choice. And for this one, we're going to draw on my favorite analogy that maybe you're sick of hearing if you've followed my content for any amount of time. Life is a video game. Life is a video game. It is the perfect analogy. I absolutely love this analogy. It is so perfect. And it is no less perfect for this topic of death, dying, exit points, etc., etc. So, this analogy in a nutshell, you can think of your soul, your higher self, your soul, as the player of the video game. You, the you in the meat suit watching the video here, is the avatar within the video game. And the video game here is Earth, is the 3D matrix that we are living in. That is the video game. So our souls, the players of the game, decided they wanted to play this game called Earth. Ascension, Earth, lay the beat down to the false matrix. That's the game they decided they wanted to play. So they incarnated. They appear in the game as these bodies, these meat suits, these avatars, and you chose your avatar. Everything about your avatar at a soul level, you chose. You chose, your gender, your nationality. You chose your hair color, your eye color, your family, your body type, everything. You chose it before incarnating for a specific reason. Now, as the avatar, as the character, those choices might not make any sense to you, but just trust that the player of the game, your higher self, it had its reasons for making these choices. And the more you can trust that, the more you can step into your power, the more you can align with that soul, that player of the game, and really start to have fun with the game. But in any case, let's bring it down to this death analogy, shall we? So if you've ever played like a typical video game, oftentimes what happens in the video games, most video games that you play, like let's say Mario Brothers, that's a classic, right? You're playing Mario Brothers, and let's say you fall down a pit and Mario dies. What happens? Well, Mario oftentimes just regenerates and you get to try again. That's what happens. And basically this will happen again and again as long as Mario has extra lives. And if Mario doesn't have extra lives, that's okay too, because then you'll go back to the title screen, but then even then you can try again, and you can keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and you can play Mario Brothers as long as you want to play it, just dying and retrying as many times as you see fit. The game only ends when you step away and you're like, I'm done playing this game. I'm not going to return to this game anymore. That's when the game ends. Otherwise, the game is made to be played. It's made to be played, and you can play it as many times as you want and in as many ways as you want to. The same is true for life. Meets what I will call, and I know others have used this terminology, exit points, okay? So these are these points within your life, within your timeline, that your soul, your higher self decided, I'm going to put an exit point there. If I want to stop playing the game there, I can. So let's think of it in the video game analogy thing. I don't think Mario typically has this, but other games do. It's like a save point. So it's like at that point in the game, you can save and then you can log out of the game and you can go do other stuff if you want. So your soul is like, all right, I don't want to be stuck in this game. Let's have exit points throughout the timeline so that if I want, I can save, I can step out of the game, and I don't have to be stuck in the game. So there are these exit points scheduled throughout your life. These are moments where you have the opportunity to peace out if you want. You have the opportunity to die if that's what you really want to do, and to leave this physical reality, this game, this matrix. those points are in place for you. And so I will say in my life so far, I am 35 years old and I have had 7 exit points that I'm aware of in any case, 7 exit points. And these were moments where by all accounts, I should be dead. And in every single one of these instances, in fact, I knew I was going to die. It wasn't a question. It was like, I knew I was going to die. It was certain death. I knew I was going to die. But then I didn't. What happened? What happened, friends, is that these 7 instances in my life were exit points. I had the opportunity to peace out if I wanted. And so I can tell you from each of these instances where my headspace was at. Well, on one hand, I felt completely out of control. It forced me into a state of surrender where I basically got to the point where I was like, I'm going to die. I'm certain I'm going to die. So I surrendered to death. I made peace with it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to die. And at the same time, in the background, maybe very, very quiet little voice, was this part of me that's like, but I don't choose to die yet. Even though I'm okay with it and I surrender to it and like, if this is it, fine. I don't really want to. I don't really choose to. It's not like fully my decision yet. Maybe there was a part of me that it was my decision, but there's still another part of me, a little part of me that disagrees and that wants to stay. So then guess what happens? Each of those 7 times, some miraculous thing occurred and I didn't die. These were exit points. And just like the video game analogy, my soul, my higher self, if not like my avatar self too, to some degree, was like, I want to keep playing the game. Like, I want to see what happens after this point. That kind of sucks. That kind of sucks that I got dead there, that I got killed there, that I died. And I want to keep playing the game. So I did. And here I am. And you guys can see me. So how exactly does this work? It works via timeline jumping, okay? Every time you have the opportunity to make a choice, timelines are created. Timelines for each and every possibility, each and every choice. So there was, for each of these situations, these 7 deadly situations, 7 deadly sins, 7 deadly situations, there was an opportunity for me to die, and there's an opportunity for me to live. And so in some timeline somewhere, at each of these moments, I died at that point in the timeline. But in this, I kept moving, I wanted to keep playing, so I kept shifting then to the timeline where I still got to live, and I got to play as this avatar a little bit longer. And so here I am. That's the timeline I'm on right now, is the timeline where I got to live, and I survived each of those situations. So let me know if this makes sense, or if I need to explain a little bit more. I hope this is making sense. To kind of better demonstrate the topic here, I'm going to direct you to one of my videos where I actually talk about one of these instances in detail. It's called I Died and Went to Hell. I will link it up here. So essentially this one was I overdosed on pot gummies. And it's so silly. It's so ridiculous. So I overdosed on pot gummies, and I'm not going to get too much into it here because that'll be a whole nother rabbit hole. But basically, friends, because I was tripping, I did experience going through the timeline where I died. I experienced that timeline. And then I went further down that timeline and experienced hell. And essentially, I was in hell. I was in this hellish time loop of experiencing hell over and over and over again until I made the choice, hey, I don't want to play this video game anymore. I want to live. I want to go back to that other timeline and not die this time. And then poof, I came out of the trip instantly. And what had happened was that I shifted to a timeline where it's not possible to die from a weed overdose, from pot gummies, because as far as I understand, in this reality that we're in right now, that's not possible. That's not even like, you know, part of the laws of physics here. However, in the reality I came from, it was possible and I did die. So that happened. And then I was like, hey, I want to keep playing the game. So I shifted to a reality where it's not possible and I'm still here. So I hope that that makes sense. I know for some people listening, they're like, girl, you just be tripping. Like, that is crazy, absolutely crazy. But I encourage you to just stay with me here. It was the same for all my other 6 situations as well, where there weren't any drugs involved. So on that topic, I think that's more or less what I wanted to say, but I'll just address NDEs real quick, because maybe you're someone that's like really, really into NDEs, near-death experiences, and studying those and people's experiences with that. And you're like, well, hey, like that person just died and like they actually experienced their death, and like what happened there? How does that fit into this puzzle? And for that, I would say, yes, they died, but they came back, right? They're talking to you in the video, right? Or whatever it is that where they're explaining their near-death experience. They came back because their soul chose to come back. They chose to keep playing the game. And so that's the version of them that we're actually communicating with and we're receiving information from. So know that if someone does not come back, if they die and they do not come back, they chose that. Their soul, and maybe even their ego, chose that, and they were ready for that. And it's like, we can't actually know what's going on in those people's heads now, can we? Because they don't come back here. The only people that we do hear from on this are people that had the near-death experiences that did come back. So we don't really know what's going through the minds of those who don't come back, unless you're a psychic medium like myself and you talk to the deceased regularly. And I can tell you, and I didn't put this together until like recently, but it's like I've channeled a lot of different dead people at this point. And like literally every deceased person I've communicated with does convey the fact that like, yeah, it was my time. It was my time and I was ready to go. Even people that, you know, like we look at it and we're just like, oh, how tragic. They were so young. Life was stolen from them so young. Even those souls chose it. Even those souls were ready. And so I also feel called to share this like little anecdote. If this helps anyone have peace, I feel maybe someone needs to hear this. So when I was 10, and my beloved grandfather passed away, everyone was so upset. Everyone felt like he was too young to die. Like he was like 70 or something. And it was too young. He was taken too soon, and all the family was raging, and they kind of blamed the people at the hospital and the doctors, and they pinned the blame on them, and were just like so angry. And there was all this drama, like, oh, he could have lived if you did XYZ. And then I was like just observing all of this as this 10-year-old. I remember being in the back seat of the van, and my parents were driving and like talking about this. And I just shared, and maybe this was one of my first channelings, I don't know, but I just shared from my heart. There was no ego. It was just like a channeled message. And I was like, you know, Grandpa would have died either way. Like, if it wasn't in this hospital from this health complication, it would have been in a car crash. If it wasn't in a car crash, he would have like choked to death on some food or something. I was like, he was gonna die either way because his soul was ready to go. And his soul was gonna manifest that transition regardless of how it was gonna happen. So I was like, there's really no point in blaming these people, because he was gonna go anyways, and there's nothing any of us could do to stop it. And I said that basically basically I laid down the law. What makes it even funnier is like I barely spoke as a kid. I was so quiet, so shy. I kept everything to myself. I kept my emotions to myself. I was like a little robot child. And I laid down the law here, and then I shut up, and my family was completely silenced. They didn't really have anything to say to that. They couldn't really respond to that. So all this is to say, if someone has gone, they've chosen it. And I would encourage you to respect their decision. And in that sense, every death is someone unaliving themselves. And on that note, let's talk about unaliving yourself real quick, yeah? So this is something that is like so taboo, right? It's so taboo. And growing up like as a like little Christian kid, little Catholic school girl, I was taught that this was a sin. It was like the biggest sin possible was to take your own life. And like, I didn't agree with that. I didn't agree with that. And at the same time, I could see where they were coming from, and I could, I knew there was truth in it. And here's the truth that I realized in communicating with those who have done this, and also having my own memories of this. Because like I said, so many past lives, I have done this. So what happens basically is when you unalive yourself, it is kind of like the avatar, the ego is superseding the will of the higher self and the soul. And the avatar is just like, nope, screw this, I'm out. It's just like, nope, I don't care what you think, soul. I don't care what you think, higher self. I'm out. I'm coming back. Eject me from this game. That's what's happening. So it's like a sin because it's not in alignment actually with what your soul wants. But are there consequences? Yes and no. So no, you're not going to go to hell if if you also grew up with that programming that I did from the Catholicism and just Christianity in general. Maybe in a way you could say that kind of you do, because basically what happens is if you peace out early, not in alignment with your soul and the exit points that it set for you, you have to then like feel through all of the unexplored relationships, all of the unexplored karma. So like your soul, before you incarnate, it's planning everything out, right? And it's like, okay, we're gonna meet people, we're gonna do these things, we're gonna have these relationships and these energy exchanges, we're gonna learn from each other, teach each other, blah, 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 blah. So if your ego supersedes that and is like, peace, peace, motherfuckers, I'm out, then your soul's like, well, now that you're back in spirit, you're going to have to experience all of the domino effects that your life was going to have on these other people before you peaced out. So I hope that makes sense. So basically, when you unalive yourself, like, yeah, you're going to have to like process a lot more. And then this can manifest in subsequent incarnations as you having like a lot of karma to transcend, a lot of like heavy weights that you got to move through. So for example, like this life, at the beginning of my life, it was so hard and so heavy. Like I said, I felt like a war veteran by the time I was 13 years old. And I feel like a part of that was because I unalived myself so many times in the past. I had to like process that in this life. I had to make up for lost time. And so I did. And that's also why I'm like not allowed to do it this time, because it's like, girl, you accumulated enough debt, enough karmic debts, time to pay. Time to pay the piper. You're not allowed to peace out anymore. You're not allowed to supersede your soul. You're not allowed to supersede your higher self anymore. We know you have a strong will, but you're not going to do it this time. And so I know I'm not the only one. Like I have a lot of people in my life who have said similar things where they're like, oh, like it would be so nice to dip out, but I know that I can't. Maybe they even tried to and they were blocked. I know many people in my life that have been very, very close to me, family members, friends, have tried and felt that they were blocked from doing so. And part of this too is because just how important the Ascension is. Like, our souls are like, this is Harvard. This is Harvard. This is Harvard for the souls right now. Like, this is a prestigious school, this Earth school. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's prestigious. And like, we had to be on a waiting list basically to be here at this time. Many souls want to be here at this time. It's a privilege, actually. And so your soul is like, you're not going to leave. You're not going to leave. It's like your parent. If you're like this kid that's going to Harvard and you have this rich parent that's paying for it all. Parents like, no, you're going to get that education, God damn it. You're going to go through, you're going to get your degree, like it or not. And so that's what our souls are doing to us for this life. They're like, yeah, you're here for the long haul. You're going to see this thing through this time. And you're going to lay the beat down to all of the karma ever from your lifetimes on Earth so that we can just move freely. We can move forward freely with a blank slate as souls in a way. Does any of that make sense, or does that sound totally crazy? Let me know. I don't even know what I just said. It was totally channeled. So let's get to part 2 of the video. Part 2 is what I'm going to call Immortality Codes. Immortality Codes. Ooh, cool. So it's like an upgrade for the system, as if we were all like computers, and it's this update that gives us immortality and stuff. So if you did not know, we were not meant to age and to die of old age. This is a construct of the false matrix. This is a direct result of our life force being siphoned from us, being stolen from us, being taken. It is not natural to age and to die of old age. And this is why we all resist it so much. We all resist this so much because it's not natural. And the more of a starseed you are, the more of an old soul you are, the more this rings true for you, because you are much closer to those other incarnations as like higher frequency beings that don't age and don't die from old age. So this is a lie that has been fed to us, and it has been like installed into our systems, if you will, like these mortality codes that say like, yeah, after a certain age, you can live to be, if I don't know, if you're like in the medieval times, you can live to be 30 years old, then you die. And then they upgraded it and they're like, okay, you can live to be 50 now. You can live to be 70, 80, 90. And as you can see now, if you look at like modern science, you look at people's lifespans, it's actually increasing, right? So modern science is starting to catch up with this, and we're starting to develop ways to expand our lifespans, but that's just a crutch. And ultimately, we don't even like need all of that extra stuff to just like unnaturally extend our lifetimes. We are meant to be ageless and immortal. That is our birthright. And that is what we came here to reclaim. This is what the Ascension is all about, friends. It's reclaiming that immortality, that agelessness, the immortality codes. So if there's a part of you that is so resistant to aging, so resistant to just dying in general, or dying specifically of old age, know that this is your soul letting you know it's optional. It's a lie. It's an illusion. You don't have to do it unless you're choosing it. If you choose for that to be the case, it will be the case, because you're the sovereign creator of your own reality. The false matrix brainwashed you to believe that that's the only choice that you have. But friends, as I always say, you always have a choice. You always have a choice. And my choice is like to reclaim these immortality codes and to, keep playing to max this avatar. I was like, I want to max this avatar out. I want to pimp this avatar out and see how far I can go with her before I, dip out and play as someone else, okay? That's my personal goal for this life. Like, how cool can I make this avatar before I peace out? So this goes back to the days of Atlantis and Lemuria. Back in those days, if you are someone who has past life memories of this, you will know that like we could live as long as we wanted back then. We were immortal back then. And what happened was that everything is energy, right? And everything that's physical, it's like just slowed down energy, so it takes this physical form. But we have the ability, like I'm thinking like Harry Potter, like disapparating. We literally have the ability to raise the frequency of the energy that is our bodies and like disapparate it. And so that's how people would die back in the day, back in Atlantis times, is they would be like, you know, I think I've gone as far as I want to go with this playthrough in this video game, with this character in this video game. I'm going to peace out now. And basically we would do that. We would desaparate our bodies. And there would be oftentimes these like celebrations, these ceremonies, kind of celebrating the life that that person lived, their playthrough in the video game before they peaced out and moved on. And there wasn't any sadness. Like people were just like, all right, cool. It was just normal. It wasn't something to be feared or afraid of or sad about. It was normal and it was celebrated. And it can be that way again. And so know that also in these times, like if you were frustrated by being a child and a baby, that's also kind of unnatural. Like this is also something that has kept us in victimhood and out of our power and in control. We don't have to incarnate as babies and be these helpless beings that have to rely on others externally in our environment to survive. Like back in the day, if someone wanted to have that experience, yes, they could do that. But I would say most people didn't do that. Most people just manifested, they materialized a body for themselves that was fully functional, fully like grown, shall we say, and they just dipped into that body, just like in a video game, right? In a video game, it's like, when do you ever start playing as a baby? Like, how boring would that be if you had to just wait for that baby to grow up and you had to be a kid with all these rules and like you couldn't access your full abilities? How frustrating would that be? Every like video game, you just like pop in as an avatar that's fully formed as an adult, like, you know, in media res, as they say, in the middle of some exciting stuff. And that's how it used to be. And again, that's how it can be again, if you choose to allow it. And so again, I say these principles are at play that I talked about in this video up here. I believe it's called The Dragons Are Back, where I talk about belief and the power of belief in manifesting these like things that seem like they're from a fantasy novel, like seeing dragons physically and being immortal. The reason dragons and immortality and all these things appear over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in our fantasy, in our sci-fi, is because they're real. And because it's our souls being like, hey, this is real. Don't forget about this. Remember, this option is there for you. Why do you keep choosing this option over here when it hurts you and it makes you feel small, when there's this option over here that feels so fun and magical and expansive? So that's what I will leave with you, my friend, is like, you always have a choice. What will you choose? Know that these immortality codes, you're going to see this becoming huge over the next 2 decades in particular. I got that really strongly channeled in, which is cool because I rarely get like specific time frames and stuff, but they were like next 2 decades in particular. Huge theme of that is going to be reclaiming, reinstalling these immortality codes. And so you're going to see more and more people becoming ageless, aging backwards, and reclaiming that immortality that is our birthright. And science is going to be supporting this and extending lifetimes. And there's also going to be distortion there that you're going to have to use your own personal intuition and discernment to kind of navigate through and see like what feels natural and organic for you to reclaim your immortality codes. So tying all of this back into the current energies, we are at a huge turning point for humanity. We are on the precipice of this timeline split. Again, lower timeline, higher timeline. The reason why this video is so important right now, and I wanted to release it today of all days, is because know this truth, that you cannot die, that death is a choice. Know this, own this, live this, and you can never fall out of alignment with your highest timeline again. Know this, own this, become this, and you become truly sovereign, truly invincible. And the matrix, the false matrix, and the people on the lower timelines, they become scared of you. They become scared of you, my friend. And maybe even there's people watching this video that are triggered as hell right now by everything I'm saying. Maybe there's people that are watching this video and they're scared of me because they're like, whoa, you have gone completely off the deep end. All of this stuff sounds completely bonkers, Hannah. And that's okay. That's your truth right now. This is my truth. This is what I choose. What do you choose, friend? What are you gonna choose? So all of that said, if this is really resonating, and if you're like, hell yeah, Hannah, I wanna go to my highest timeline and beyond. I wanna reclaim these immortality codes. I wanna become invincible, unfuckwithable. I would encourage you to check out my one-to-one mentorship program, The Path of the Dragon Mage. So basically, this is a limited offer. There's only 3 slots available. I'm only going to be taking applicants for the next couple of weeks. If you're someone who wants personal mentorship from yours truly, this is your chance. This isn't something I offer too often, but it's just really on my heart this year because I feel there's souls that are really ready for this personal one-to-one mentorship. And not only are you receiving it from me in this particular experience, you're getting it from all the different dragons. So in this mentorship, we learn from every single dragon elemental, as well as the golden dragons, as well as your own personal dragon guides, however they manifest. And we really step into our power together. And you learn from me, but I also learn from you. And it is like the partnership of a lifetime. It is, words cannot even describe how excited I am about this experience. The results my clients from the past round have been getting. It was the first round I hosted this past round. Oh my gosh. I want this for you too. If you're out there, just take a moment and just place your hands on your heart and just ask yourself if this experience might be for you. And if you feel that expansiveness, if you feel like your soul calling for it, then apply. Just apply for the program, see what happens, see what happens. The worst that could happen is that you don't make it in for this round, and that's okay. Maybe it's just not in alignment right now. And if your soul is not calling for it, that's totally cool too. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's not a match, and that's totally okay. I'm here to support you if you feel you need that support. So know that either way, my friend, me and the dragons love you forever. And we ask that you let me know on this video, like, what did you think of all of this? Does it make sense? Do you have any further questions? Because this is a really nasty shadow for the collective. And I'm ready to tear it apart. Really, I'm ready to take the wrecking ball to this because it has been such an integral part of my spiritual awakening process and my just personal growth in my younger life and my older life. And just, it's been so like integrated in my experience. I really am excited to talk more about this. So let me know how this landed with you. I'm sending you so much love on your journey. Stay powerful.